Hello, I'm Becher Townshend and welcome to the Fontcast, Tasmania's top source of political news and analysis.
Hang on, Beach. You've changed it up.
Yep.
It used to be top political podcast, which of course is true. But you're now saying top source for political news and analysis.
Yep, I don't want to upset David, who's an apology today.
No coincidence.
But it's just a fact. Look no further than your outstanding exclusive last episode that Jackie Petrushma would be elected the Parliament Speaker, predicted by no one else and 100% correct.
Fair point. It was a good call, wasn't it? Don't think I saw that one anywhere else. Alex, did you? No. Out of the blue, though, wasn't it? Injury and all.
It's due. We'll get to a couple of other missteps later, but
come on.
I'll let you guys have your time in the sun first, yeah.
Actually, I've got a little one on that too, actually. Beach, remember, Alex, there was an informal vote?
There was. I thought it might have been first day nerves.
In the vote for, I think it was for Deputy Speaker.
Yes,
which was
Jen Butler versus Helen Burnett.
That's right. Now, it was alleged, I'm sure it's not true, alleged there was a deal between the Libs and the Greens that the Libs would support Burnett for Deputy Speaker, and coincidentally, all the Libs voted for Helen Burnett, so maybe there was a deal. But there was this missing vote. I'm told it was just a blank vote. It wasn't like a person not working out how to do the business. Okay. So it was a deliberate, informal vote, an abstention. I'm told, in fact, Beach, and this person who abstained wanted to keep was a Liberal, wanted to keep their record clean of not voting for the Greens. I won't name who the person is.
Well, I reckon it was a Braddon MP. I reckon I can narrow it down to two, but that doesn't mean we can get it right.
Name names.
Am I right in saying it was a male Braddon MP?
No.
Oh, how interesting.
We could play this all day, couldn't we?
No,
This sort of
no.
elimination.
I got one wrong, so I bow out. Okay, well, interesting.
I mean, effectively, the Liberals are supported by the Greens in Parliament at the moment. Anyhow, that's another...
So anyway, there you go.
Another discussion.
Very interesting. Again,
yes.
And it's sort of one of those things that just completely glossed over by the mainstream media. Didn't see anyone note it at all.
Yeah. Anyhow.
Amazing. There you go.
Anyhow, hey, Alex Johnston, welcome to the pod. How are things travelling with you?
Oh, good morning. Thanks for giving me an excuse to put pants on this morning. It's a novelty. No, I think my time as a man of leisure needs to come to an end fairly soon.
Yeah.
But I have enjoyed the last few weeks. I won $25 on Friday for coming second at golf. So is that sustainable? Probably not.
$25,
yeah.
It's a start, though.
That's at the home track. Yeah.
Okay, so petrol money wasn't too bad for that one, all right?
Yeah, okay. So, no, I'll probably need to find a job soon. But, it's nice just to sit back and take a deep breath and have a look at politics from a slightly different vantage point.
As a civilian, mate. Well, you're looking relaxed.
I saw in the paper today there's a few openings in the Labor opposition, mate. You want to make a comeback?
I don't think I'll be invited back to the Labor opposition anytime soon. But, look, after our analysis today of the new leader, who knows?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, never say never. Okay, let's go. And as they like to say on another top podcast, the rest is history. A few weeks ago, the storm clouds of war gathered, and then they melted away into an absolute fizzeroo.
Fizzer-as.
Fizzer-as.
There's a space in there, Beach.
Fizzer-as. Okay, thank you. The much-anticipated no-confidence motion moved by then Labor leader Dean Winter was defeated a resounding 24 votes to 10.
Yes, we did get that one wrong, Alex. We all said 25 because we all forgot that the Speaker doesn't vote.
Yeah, look, I think
in the case of a tie.
If push came to shove, I don't think Jackie Petrushma was voting no confidence anyway, so we'll give ourselves a tick for that one.
Technical win, you reckon?
Okay.
Okay.
Since then, of course, things have moved on somewhat for Mr Winter and Labor at least. Dean Winter is no longer the Labor leader, replaced by Josh Willie. So we'll have a look at today at the no confidence motion and why it failed so spectacularly. We'll also have a bit of a closer look at Mr Winter's deposition. We'll also have a closer look at Mr Winter's loss as Labor leader.
He was deposed.
That's it.
He was deposed.
By Josh Willie.
Too early for the script this morning.
And
this is going as well as the no confidence motion.
Right. And what that change will mean for Labor in the state, and with no normal parliament... And with normal parliament resuming tomorrow, we'll take a look at the issues that are likely to occupy our state's political class for the rest of the year, including the stadium. Yes,
If
it's
in
coming
square
back an
brackets,
issue.
You don't say it. It's like
Okay.
it's-
Yeah, thanks,
Yeah.
Brad. Okay,
Got it.
Keep up the good work. Right. Anyhow, but first, Mr. Winters failed no confidence motion. So, as correctly predicted, the motion was defeated 24 votes to 10, with every single Green and Independent member voting against it. AJ, what do you make?
Well, yes, it was a resounding defeat. I think he did the right thing by going through with it. I mean, I wouldn't have flagged that I was going to move no confidence day one when he did. I thought that was maybe a little premature, but once he did say that, I think he had to go through with it because he wanted to get the crossbench on the record. Who are you going to be with? Now, a lot of crossbenchers got up and said, I've got no confidence in Jeremy Rockliff, but the vote was in favour of Jeremy Rockliff, so you have to interpret it that way to an extent. So I think he did the right thing in following through with it, but it was a pretty unedifying thing, you know, one last shit sandwich to eat for the road, I think. So, pardon my vulgar language this early in the morning, but it was unedifying. Why did it end up... I mean, even Craig Garland voted against it. You know, when I said 25-10 in here, I walked out thinking, oh, maybe Garland, because he said, I can't support Jeremy Rockliff, maybe he'll reluctantly vote for it, but even he didn't support it after he'd said on the Mariners issue, I can't trust Jeremy Rockliff. So I think a big part of it in terms of the crossbench was that's not a bit of momentum, I guess, and obviously all the issues that Jeremy Rockliff gave ground on, greyhounds and etc., the forestry and salmon. And then there was momentum, I guess. But everyone's speech was different. Everyone got up and justified it for different reasons. But it was, yes, as you say, a fizzer. Wasn't a nail-biter.
Brad?
Yeah, it was pretty humiliating stuff for Mr. Winter, to be frank, as you said, AJ. And being lectured to by a succession of holier-than-thou independents that he wasn't prepared to compromise and wanted to stick to his word and not break the promises he made prior to the election.
Perish the thought.
Perish the thought. But that's the way these integrity-loving independents tend to roll. Integrity matters except when it doesn't. But look, it was the right thing to do. I agree with you, Alex, for Dean to bring the motion on. It provided certainty to the Parliament, to the government. It did draw a line under it. Really drew a line under it for Dean, I suppose. Yep. But also, I mean, it did make these independents and the Greens show the colour of their money. They don't like to say it. Just because I voted against the no confidence motion doesn't mean I have confidence in Jeremy. Yes, it does. You literally voted that way. If you didn't have confidence in him, you would have voted against him, or if you were sort of a bit lily-livered, you would have abstained. But none of them did that.
Yep.
They all voted against the motion of no confidence. They all declared their confidence.
I will say
in the Liberals.
All eyes were on Parliament that morning, and it did give Dean Winter a chance to outline, all the reversals in policy from Jeremy Rockliff. So I think it was important to do that. And at one stage in his speech, I thought, he's on a roll here. He's not going to win this vote. But when he talks about the letters and not being able to trust anything that Jeremy Rockliff's put in writing, I thought that was pretty strong and probably sent a decent message. Now, of course, it's not Dean Winter at the helm anymore. But if he had have just faded away, he wouldn't have got a chance to do that. When all eyes were watching that morning, you felt like it was quite a big event, even though the result was a fait accompli.
I think he sort of struck out a bit. It was a bit of a limp speech, I thought, that Dean delivered as well. Wasn't an
I thought there were good moments.
Good moments. It was there was too much trying to pack into a short amount of time. It was rushed, so he sort of ran through it all without really nailing any of the points. When he came back and wrapped up the debate at the end of the day, that was a much stronger speech, which I think was delivered pretty much without notes. Much stronger. But anyway, I think the right thing was done. The line was drawn, and we now do have, I think it accurately can be said, it is a Liberal government supported by the Greens and the Progressive Independents.
And having that vote at the start of the term does give some breathing space. Like, it's very, very unlikely we're going to see another vote of no confidence. I would, for quite a long time, it would just seem so silly if anyone tried to bring one on, barring some extraordinary thing that we can't foresee. But, yes, it draws a line in the sand.
Well, I mean, yes, it does, in the sense that it's unlikely that there'll be a no confidence, but frankly, the way things are looking as we enter into Parliament, who knows?
How long's it going to last?
Well, yeah, well, that's
It's this Parliament.
Not long.
Yeah.
One other thing. Sorry, Alex, you want to...
No, why do you say not long? Don't you think everyone now is going to be on their best behaviour to avoid another early election?
Well, I have a view, and no doubt Brad has a view, and I think we've explored this before. We've definitely explored it on a one-on-one basis. They're going to have to bring down a budget next year in about May or June, and they're really going to struggle with it. I can't see how you can get a budget through, personally, and so I think that will create great problems for this government. That's my view.
But won't the status quo remain until Labor's in a credible position to govern?
For me,
which they're not at the moment, obviously.
Well, Josh is having a go. Brad will talk in a moment about things that could have happened. But from my point of view, the reality is you've got such a broad and diverse crossbench that any one of them could trigger a no confidence of some description and could trigger an election. And I just think the budget will be the trigger. I can't see how you can bring down a budget that'll please all the people all the time, and that's going to be a real challenge for them. And it's going to involve some very intelligent footwork from the Liberal Party if they want to continue in government after that. That's my sense.
Well, I mean, look, we'll come to that later, obviously, but they've got 14 votes, 13 votes, because the Speaker doesn't vote unless there's a tie. 13 votes on the floor.
Yep.
We need 18.
Yep.
It only takes, I think, as has been said before, Mr. George or Mr. Johnston to have a bad hair day, or Craig to get upset, get outside the wrong side of bed, and all of a sudden we're off to an election.
Yep.
Which is basically what happened earlier this year.
Yeah, I just don't see that. I mean, even from Labor's point of view, I don't think Labor will want to have their fingerprints on an early election.
Well, nice segue, Alex. But let's not forget there didn't need to be an early election.
No.
People have forgotten this.
I haven't.
Well, you haven't.
No.
But I think the general
I might still have a job.
populace... That's exactly right. But I mean, politics really is. It's all about seizing the moment. It is a succession of sliding doors moments. So, it's been widely accepted that the motion that Dean brought on was precipitous in terms of timing. They were in the ascendancies in opposition, and if he'd perhaps just waited another year, then he would have been cruising into government. Look, that may well be true.
May well be true. Is true.
Well, I don't think that hypothesis can ever be tested. However, what did happen was the vote was brought on, and it was passed. There was a no confidence motion passed in Tasmanian Premier the first time since 19...
Don't know.
Long time ago, probably 1989.
I was going to say
Gray,
89.
And what happened then?
Oh, of course. Sorry, yeah.
Dean was offered the chance by the governor to form a Labor government and to become Premier. The Greens at that point said they would back him. Mr. Garland said he would back him. Christy Johnson, as good as said, she would back him. And Mr. Winter declined the opportunity in favour of an election which he thought he would do better at. Ultimately, a very, very bad call.
Yep.
But let's not forget, if he had said yes, we'd be living under the glorious regime of Premier Winter and the Labor Green minority government right now.
Yep.
That chance was there, and I would just make the point, at least for the next 18 months, that chance remains of a change of government without an election, should the circumstances arise.
So what else triggers an election? Like, vote of no confidence, obviously.
Well,
Are there other circumstances?
A Premier going to the Governor saying, I'd like to have an election is the thing. Whether the Governor accepts that advice or not is another thing. And I assume that you know these constitutional things better than me, Brad, but I assume there's various triggers that can occur within that conversation. But fundamentally, that's what occurs. But a simple spill on the floor could see another person stand up and say...
look, we just need to remember it's a very, very fragile situation. The government, as I say, they've got 14 votes if you count David O'Byrne, maybe 15 depending if the Speaker votes. They're a long way short of 18.
Yep.
Sure, people say they don't want to have an early election or don't want to bring on no confidence motion, but, let's wait till tomorrow or the day after the day after. Like, circumstances change very, very quickly in politics.
Things happen.
I think that's right. I think it could change hands without an election, but I just don't see that happening until Labor is in a much stronger position than it is now, because Labor will want to set themselves up to win multiple elections, not just to seize
I reckon
power.
they'll be happy with one at the moment, mate.
No, but I mean, this is the problem. I think this is what the no confidence motion, the first one, was such a problem, because it undermined the momentum and it undermined any chance of Labor setting themselves up for a sustained run in government. And if you
could be in government now, he refused.
I know, but they'll be thinking about how do you stay in government for 10 years, not 2 years.
Well, okay. I think in an ideal world, you're right. Okay, any party would say, well, let's build a meaningful narrative so that we can get elected for a lengthy period of time, or get a true mandate to implement the reforms we think are needed. But the reality is, as Brad sort of alludes to, politically things are so fragile at the moment that might not be the case. So yesterday, Peter George, I think was it yesterday, was on his daily update talking about the terms of reference and the committee for the salmon inquiry. Now,
Wondering how long it'll take before we raise salmon. Ding, ding, ding.
Ding, ding, ding. But the point being, he was talking about his concern about the makeup of that committee and those kind of things. So you can see he's far from happy on it. The industry obviously will want to have its say in terms of that review and so on. So there, for example, is a potential trigger for an election. So
Look,
they're just time bombs everywhere.
I think what's more likely to happen is at some point there is going to be a ministerial scandal with one of the ministers, and the Premier is going to have to choose between throwing that minister under the bus, which is probably what will happen based on experience, or standing up to government over it. That's what, and it's going to depend.
I think we saw that last time around, didn't we?
That's what's going to happen. I think that's going to be the likely trigger at some point. It's going to be, do you throw Ferguson under the bus, or do you go to an election?
That was the example last time.
Yeah, okay.
All right.
That's going to happen again, inevitably.
Well,
the ministers are all so competent.
Yeah, they're all listening to this now. You've filled them with joy, right? Let's have a look at the ascension of Josh Willie to the Labor leadership. For those unfamiliar with what happened, essentially Dean Winter refused to step down as Labor leader after the defeat, and perhaps surprisingly to many people, had the support of the majority of the Labor caucus to continue as leader. Anyhow.
Yeah, I think it was at least 9 out of 13, is that right, Beach?
That's
the Labor expert
well,
here?
that's what I understand.
Maybe 10 even, I'm told.
Well, okay, well, yes, I don't anyhow, 9 or 10. Dean's problem was, under Labor rules, if there is a contest for the leadership, the vote goes to the rank and file of Labor members and party delegates. And because the Labor membership and delegates are mainly from the left, Dean's challenger, Josh Willie, knew he'd easily win such a ballot. So all Josh had to do, and what he did, was he just stared down Dean and the majority of his own caucus, knowing that eventually Dean would have to withdraw in order to avoid a damaging member vote. AJ, what do you think of that?
Yeah, very interesting. No one's explicitly said this to me, but I get the feeling that there was reluctance to change because the caucus wanted to accept the events of the past few months as a team. Basically, Dean wasn't acting alone.
Yep.
His decisions were backed by the caucus. So, let's own this and move forward together. So I don't think it was necessarily a popularity contest between Dean Winter and Josh Willie. It was more of, well, let's own this decision together and move forward. And I don't know what case Josh Willie put for change. Probably just, look at the comments about Dean Winter. We need a circuit breaker. Someone has to take the responsibility or feel the pain, I guess, for that terrible election result. But anyway, I don't think there's disunity now. I think Josh is liked. I think there actually is plenty of love in the Labor camp at the moment, maybe more so than at different times previously. but I think there was a lot of loyalty to Dean and a recognition that he had followed the instructions of the team.
Yeah, okay. Well, it's certainly in my sort of reading of it, there's two schools of thoughts. One is leave Dean there, get rid of a few more barnacles, work out what you're going to do and get a proper position moving forward. And the other logic, I suppose, is, well, this government could fall at any time, so we need a new leader to take the helm, and there's an opportunity for us. What do you make of it, Brad?
Well, it was a pretty bizarre situation, I thought. Having a leader with the support of 1/3 of his own caucus, his own party room's not really ideal. You say there's love in the room, but 2/3 of them didn't want him. They spent the whole day trying to convince him not to run.
Well, didn't want change, I think. Is there a difference there? I mean, am I splitting hairs?
I think you are. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, they didn't want him. He was what represented change, and they didn't want him. But he's there now. They've got him. They have. I don't know whether it's fair to say they've pulled him behind him or not. At this stage, it's very early to tell. Haven't seen much in the media other than Josh himself. Haven't really seen, maybe Ella. We haven't really seen much else. It's been pretty quiet. But what I would say, it's certainly displayed on Mr. Willie's part a real political ruthlessness.
Yep.
Lest I use that word again. That neither Dean nor even Ms. White demonstrated. He'd made a move from the upper house at the last election, explicitly with the purpose of becoming leader. 18 months later, when the chance was presented, he wasn't going to let that slip, and he just basically said,
No, he dug his heels
take
in.
it or leave it, dug his heels in. That's exactly right. They spent the whole day trying to convince him not to.
And once again, this is just speculation, but while they were locked in that meeting, there were all sorts of things flying around about the right, trying to use its leverage and saying, well, if Dean doesn't stay on, we'll disaffiliate from the party. All these sort of rumours were swirling. Now, none of those have been confirmed. But it obviously got tense because, as Brad said, Josh Willie must have just dug his heels in and said, I'm in regardless.
Rules are the rules.
Well, clearly some hunger there from Josh.
Oh, he's ambitious.
Yeah, well,
I mean,
moving
from the upper house to the lower house, I think, was the first big sign of just how ambitious Josh Willie is.
Yep. And, to quote Bob Cheek, you've got to have a little bit of mongrel in you. So
quoting Bob Cheek,
there you
that's
go.
bad, Josh.
Yep. Anyhow.
So there's an opposition leader, Josh Willie, who's, let's hope Josh Willie goes a little bit better as opposition leader than Bob Cheek, just for the sake of...
But I make the point that you've got to have a bit of that in you as a leader. And the point I think Brad's making, and I would agree, is, perhaps we didn't see as much of that with the previous two leaders. Anyhow, what do we make about Josh's leadership so far, Brad?
Well, look, certainly looks the part. Nice sharp suit. Wears a tie, which his predecessor failed to understand was an essential part of the job.
It's not an essential part of the Foncast, I hope.
Well, no, but you're not running for Premier here.
Not for you.
Oh.
I'm
not running for Premier.
Said all the right things as initial press conference. I thought was very disciplined and on message. I had to listen to the audio of that. But the big question is, what's actually changed? Like he says he's changed, but what actually has changed? He supports greyhound racing, supports the salmon industry, supports the forest industry.
And was that the compromise, maybe, behind closed doors? Okay, you're digging your heels in, Josh, you become leader, but...
No, that's just smart, pragmatic politics.
Oh, you don't see anything...
No, it's just smart, pragmatic politics.
Nothing's changed.
No, at this point, nothing's changed.
Well, he's got a nicer suit and a tie, but nothing else has changed.
No, but he's also, he's going to back in those industries because he wants to highlight the hypocrisy of the Liberal Party. That's pretty straightforward politics 101, if you ask me.
It is strange circumstances to have to do a reset. I mean, it's not after a traditional loss of government or a big election loss. You're almost trying to get back to where you were 6 months ago, which, you just need a time machine to get back there and get back to where you had the government on the ropes and you were slowly making ground. So I guess that's probably why there's a reluctance to throw the baby out with the bathwater, because it is a different type of reset.
Oh, I think the problem that Labor faces is they have changed leaders a couple of times in recent history, and with those change in leaderships, they have changed their policy positions. And I think internally what the voices are saying to them is, if we keep changing our politics, nobody knows what we stand for, which was really the heart of the issue that I think Rebecca White faced. So that seems to be the issue. But anyhow, I'll let you finish your point.
I'm constantly amazed by people, particularly ambitious people, that chase the leadership of their party and then get the leadership. And then when they get there, they're like the dog that caught the car. They don't know what to do. They
what would have you done, Brad?
Speaking of the memory of Bob Cheek,
policy-wise, what would have you changed?
Yeah.
Well, what would I have changed? I would have accepted the Greyhound decision. That bit of a no-brainer, that one.
Yep.
I would have thought as a starting point. I would be seriously reconsidering my position on the stadium. We'll come to that. And I think you want to do one or two other things. My point is, he's had 18 months to think about it, and he gets the job, and all he can do is stand up and sort of say, I'm different, and then mouth the same talking points.
But isn't Beach right?
This is more nuanced than that. That's my sense of it.
Explain it to me.
Okay, so what I think, and it's preempting a conversation that's going to come, but I think what he's saying is, look, we'll go steady as she goes for the time being. We'll back in our existing policies on these positions, but there's some bigger issues that we've got to fry here, and we've got to look at how we deal with them. And one of those issues is the stadium, and I think that's the reality of it. And I think that's what's coming at us like a freight train.
It literally said in the Examiner, it was yesterday's hard copy, so it was online about 3 days ago.
Yep.
They need to connect, it's the slogan, connect before we correct.
Oh.
Yeah, you like that? Connect before we... So it's like, so apparently now he's got the job 18 months after, working every day to get it, and now he's got to go on a year-long listening tour of Tasmania to work out what he stands for. I think... As I said, he looks the part.
Yep.
Many respects, he sounds the part more than his predecessor.
Yep.
But he's got to talk the talk and walk the walk. And at the moment, I think he's really a sort of a empty political vessel waiting to be filled. And my concern is, as a good mainstream Tasmanian, is it's going to be filled by the left in his party, by the unions who are going to drag the Labor Party back off to the left, right to the left, right to the left,
all the way to
the way to the left,
part way maybe,
which might seem right for the politics of the parliament, but it's not right for the politics of winning the next election.
Isn't Beach right? They were handed a gift with Jeremy Rockliff going back on what he'd put in writing to industries. If you were to fall into line with the government on that, maybe not salmon so much, but on greyhounds, don't you miss an opportunity there?
No, you could still make the point that the bloke, his
true.
word is not written, literally not worth the paper it's written on. I mean, I was looking in the no confidence speeches, I was looking for Mr. Winter to start ritually burning and ripping up letters in the Parliament. That's the sort of stuff that Nick McKim would have done 15 years ago.
And I think on the greyhound issue, you do run the risk of being the last party standing, barracking for an industry that has lost the support of the community. The polling says it has. At the same time, though, I think we can't be too snobby about this. People derive an income from greyhound racing. It's their purpose in life. And I think we've got to be, those of us, well, I don't have a job at the moment, but those of us who are lucky enough to be employed in industries like communications and politics and things like that, I don't think can be too snobby about people who derive an income in other ways. And I think Labor, if they play that and the people, rather than, greyhound racing's the best thing going, then they can make some hay there and maybe reconnect with some of the people who deserted them.
Yeah, look, I certainly understand what Brad's saying, and I don't disagree with the proposition that we're sort of waiting to see what policies Josh comes up with, and I suspect you're right.
All we've had so far, as I say, it's same, and a bit of whinging about the Spirits, a bit of whinging about Tasmania Shield. Like, nothing's changed.
Well, funny you should say whinging, because I think he's at pains to try and shed the tag of whinging Willie. He's probably seen it on Facebook, and I actually think he's trying to exude a positivity. Even with the Spirits, he came out and said what a wonderful day it was for Tasmania. I think he is trying to shed that whinging opposition tag. Hard to do, though, and I had a question for you, Brad. Will Hodgman, between 2010 and 2014, was so negative about the government, obviously, the Labor Green government, and pretty glass half full about where the economy was heading, but still managed in some ways, and this might have been his personality more than anything else, but still managed to portray a positivity about Tasmania. Was that something that you were conscious of at that stage, that you didn't want to just be negative and you were trying to set this guy up to be a premier as well? How do you balance those two things?
When you're in opposition and you want to win government, and you've just lost an election, I've lost another one, I think there's sort of 3 steps that you need to do. The first step is you got to decontaminate your own brand. Now, I don't think Labor's anywhere near doing that at this stage, but that's the first thing you got to do, and that was the first thing we did. And you look back at what happened around 2010, 2011 within the party in terms of Will and Eric and things like that. There were some changes that were made internally that then sent the message that Will was in charge of the state Liberal Party, not then Senator Abetz.
Yep.
Second thing you got to do is you do have to be relentlessly negative, pulling down the government for all their mistakes
And failings,
drip,
yep.
and failings, drip. You've got to do that every day. You do need to do that, but you also need to have a spear chucker that's doing that, not just you all the time. So obviously Will had Gutland most of the time. It was really very, very good and effective at doing that. And then when you've done that, that's when you start talking positively about your plans for the future, about sort of halfway through the term. And that's, I think, the way we framed it up. By the time we started talking positively, they were so in the toilet after that budget and the forestry stuff that people were yearning for a positive alternative.
Yep. Yeah.
So I think from Labor's perspective, they do need to be negative or relentless in terms of pointing out the government's failings, but I don't think it needs to be Josh all the time. That's probably the mistake they're making at the moment.
Yeah.
There's not really anybody else doing it.
Well,
And making Dean Shadow Treasurer probably helps that.
Well, I think making Dean Shadow Treasurer was a good move, and I think Janie as Deputy Leader is a good move as well. I think there's potentially, a troika there.
Champion for Tasmania.
There you go. But I think there's
Can I
actually
just say,
potential.
Janie Finlay's golf swing is very good.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I saw her at the new driving range, which I know you've got interest in, Beach, in Launceston.
Sorry, viewers and listeners, he wasn't there playing golf. It's okay.
She was smashing them. So credit where it's due again.
So I did have a hit.
Yes.
I picked up a wood and went to have a hit at a ball. This is at the range at the country club in Launceston, and all I could think of was my father shouting at me, going, "Keep your head down, relax, man. Now swing at the ball. What are you doing, you idiot?" So it brought back some great childhood trauma for me. The day after Father's Day, man, I love and miss very much. But anyhow, there it is.
Now, before I forget, you mentioned Labor's new setup.
Yep.
Dean Winter, Shadow Treasurer. Brad, what happened? We had the big reveal, another Fontcast exclusive.
Oh.
This is Labor's shadow cabinet, and then it disappeared. A bit like the night I challenged Michael Veitch to a fight. The tweets were deleted. Very quickly.
Yeah, it's always smart to get rid of hide the evidence very quickly, isn't it? But I don't think that Fontcast exclusives count as opposed to the real thing. On the audio.
Right.
Yeah.
No, you got to give us more than that. Why did you go off early and very early, like a week before they'd even announced it? Like,
I got some of them right, didn't I? Just by virtue of luck. Now, they'd updated the parliamentary website with the leadership positions, and I made the mistake of assuming they'd also changed the shadow parliamentary positions, but they just updated the leadership positions. They were very quick on the parliamentary website, which I think surprised everybody.
Yes. I think that was part of the problem in itself. Was like, my, they've moved very quickly.
But I mean, that being said, there was some. What were the major changes? I think Haddad out of health back to AG was, to me, probably the most significant change, because that's where she has been for the last 18 months, and I thought it was a mistake for her to go there in the first place. She sort of went there to die politically. And you've seen since she came back to the AG position, she's been a lot more
she's
vocal.
Revived. Yeah, all right. And can we round that one out? We're happy to move on to the next issue. Now, I notice there's been one thing you didn't mention when we're outlining these things that Mr. Willie said he supported, and we've talked about it as we discussed. He said he also said he supports the stadium, Brad? What's your reading of that?
Well, nice segue, Beach. Yeah, got there eventually.
It took a while.
He did say he supports the stadium.
Yep.
He did say he supports, but then he made the point of saying he supports the POS process. He says that's the appropriate process, which is pretty ironic given Josh was one of the main people who convinced Dean not to say that during the election campaign. So I mean, talk about chutzpah on steroids there.
Yeah,
Yeah, you've hinted at this a few times. So
Yeah.
it's my understanding that Dean Winter wanted to create a point of difference, and I think that probably would have been around saying we're not going to support the fast track legislation, we're only going to support the POS. And that's before, keeping in mind, that's before Jeremy Rockliff basically said, well, the fast track legislation sort of not so fast anymore. So
It was about 10 days into the campaign when you saw Dean started to sort of position.
And it's your understanding that Josh and others...
Josh and Mr. Edmonds being the two key parliamentary members, and then obviously there was some, I think Will Hodgson will
Maybe
call
the
them,
campaign
some people
people
in
too?
the so-called Brains Trust who suggested that they should lock firmly in behind the government because that'd be much politically stupid position to do. So
I
that's what
must
they did.
admit, yep.
So Josh was part of that. So as I say, I find it quite ironic that he's out there saying that we should be following the polls and going through due process.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think it would have made any difference, to be honest. Like,
Oh, God. Of
it
course, it would have made a huge difference.
Really?
Absolutely huge difference.
But you're still
Right?
in
It would
no
have been-
man's land.
No, it would have been the difference between Dean not winning any seats, as is what occurred, and Dean picking up some seats. It is the
So
pivotal
explain
point during the election campaign.
Explain the voter to me that votes because Labor wants the POS process rather than fast track legislation.
The person who wants an actual proper process for the approval of the stadium. Gee, let me think. I wonder how many
if
people
the
are a community who want a proper and transparent process for the stadium. Just perish the thought.
I agree.
AJ.
No. I 100% agree with that most people think we need to do this
Transparent
properly,
and
regardless
appropriate
of where-
process as opposed to ramming some bill through Parliament. But go on.
No.
Yep.
100% agree with that. But does it shift any votes? Because
Of course it does, because during the election campaign, if you wanted to vote for the stadium and you're a die-in-the-wool stadium supporter, of which we agree, there is a percentage of the community that are, you would have either voted for the Liberal Party or David O'Byrne.
100%.
Because you understood where they stood, because they have been clear in that position since day one, right? So there was nobody out there going, I'm going to vote Labor because they support the stadium.
No.
Right?
Agree with you 100%.
So if there's nobody out there voting Labor because Labor supports the stadium, then if Labor had taken a more nuanced approach, and that is, well, hold on, we're not going to support this stupid fast track, which could never have occurred anyhow. It was dead as a result of the election campaign. We're going to support the POS process, and then we're going to look at the outcomes from the POS process and make a decision about where we sit, or a more nuanced position. Then some people would have been in the community going, wow, one of the major parties actually wants a transparent process around the stadium, and perhaps I might even wear a stadium if it goes through a transparent process, so therefore I might vote Labor.
It would have put the Liberals in a very difficult position.
Yeah, no, you're convincing me that there would have been some votes in it. I'm just saying that if you're going to vote on the stadium, then you're going to go for the ones that are against it. But no, you're right. It probably would be appealing to people who are in the middle.
There was
Which is exactly the reason why,
Yeah.
as I understand it, Josh is currently considering that position.
no.
So hang on, but he's already said that he supports the POS, so
Yeah.
what would a change be?
Well,
Well, there it is.
what I understand is they are considering, he is considering is dependent upon what the POS says. If the POS is negative to the stadium or very negative, and there's every chance it could be, who knows, then that provides an opportunity for Josh and Labor to off-ramp from the stadium while maintaining their support for due process and proper governance, and of course save $1.5 billion, $2 billion to the budget.
I think they're really looking for
I
an
understand that
out.
is very much in their thinking. Now we will know in
That's a big departure from backing
weeks.
in the government, backing the Liberals in lockstep,
well, it is, isn't it?
It
Yeah,
is.
it's a big departure. And what are the Liberals going to do? I mean,
Yeah.
if the polls comes down and says recommends not to proceed, I suspect that's quite a possibility. Or if you do insist on proceeding, these are all the conditions around it.
Yep.
What is the government going to do, and how is Labor going to respond to that? There is a very, very big opportunity for them to
Yep.
find a different way forward.
Yes, I think. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. I think you two do underestimate how much people want this team.
Well, last time I checked, mate, it was under 40%.
want the team
of the stadium.
No, but
Want the stadium.
The team has no salience. We've had this discussion before. There's no political salience into the team. And I've got the Bombers. I don't, you know, they're
Well-
you've got the Bombers. Who needs Tasmania?
I think you underestimate. But
But we're dealing in a political environment where if you were Labor and you could see 5, perhaps 10 or 5%, right, swing towards you with it, you would take it.
Well, look, I mean, I suppose the point is Josh needs a point of differentiation. I understand it's under consideration. It's there. We will see in a few weeks' time. I'd also make the point, and I think if anyone thinks otherwise, they really do have rocks in the head. The team will proceed at this point, whether or not the stadium passes to Parliament this year.
Well, football
next year,
people just
the year
fundamentally
after.
disagree with that.
Well, football people are wrong. The team will proceed. Last week the VFL team starting.
Yeah.
The train is so far out of the station they couldn't bring it back if they tried.
Yeah.
It's going to happen.
It's a possibility. It's just you're playing with fire. And imagine, your point of view is legitimate, and so is mine. Imagine Jeremy
Playing
Rock.
with fire.
Well, you are. You don't think Tasmania's dream of an AFL team is something that we should consider?
It'll happen.
You agree with Brad that it'll happen regardless, or you don't mind either way whether it goes ahead?
I understand the train's left the station, I suppose would be my take on it, and there it is. That's great.
Doesn't the AFL say that you need a stadium to get the
Well,
team?
look,
of course they do.
Is it so?
What will happen is if the stadium doesn't pass the Parliament because Labor essentially withdraws their support, there will be an extension to the agreement that allows the Tasmania to a couple more years to find a new different place for a stadium or alternative, and you can play in the meantime. At York Park, UTAS Stadium, whatever it's called, at Belrive, where they're playing now. Where's the VFL team going to play?
And for the first year or two, they're going to play at those grounds.
And so all
anyway.
that'll happen is it'll be extended a couple more
What
years.
you're saying is very plausible, but it's a risk. And at the same time, Jeremy Rockliff would dial up the rhetoric to 11 and say Labor is putting our dream at risk. And that is something that Josh Willie would be nervous about. That's why...
Well, if he's nervous about that, he doesn't deserve the top job because, I would say, come on, mate, grow up here. Seriously.
Well, this is the conundrum. I know we're disagreeing, but this would be the conversation they would be having, and they'd be going backwards and forwards like us and saying, what if you call their bluff? What happens?
Well, if you play Me Too, see
Well,
what
that's a fair
happens.
point,
The last state elections just demonstrated it. So that's their
Couldn't
problem.
agree more. They've been playing behind, kick behind on this issue the whole time.
And their argument was, if we fall in behind, then that'll shut up that issue. We can get out and talk on the grounds we want to talk on. Well,
And it didn't work.
It
Because
didn't
not
work.
one person voted for Labor because of the stadium.
Let's not forget the big sleeper in all this, and I know we're taking too much time here, is the budget. It is
Yes.
going to be $1.5 billion, $2 billion in a budget which is completely wrecked, and there is no way that conversation is not going to be had next May about the budget without this being central to it.
We're in lockstep on all of that. The only point I was making is I think you underestimate how much people give a shit about the team.
I'm not underestimating it. I'm just looking at the politics of it, and I'm suggesting to you that while there is a significant portion of the community that are very passionate and want to see a stadium, I absolutely get it. I'm just saying there is actually some votes elsewhere that might not want the stadium or might want just proper process. Anyhow.
Budget
I
time?
think it becomes a question of need to have versus nice to have.
Yeah.
And I think that's
the
debate we're going to be having.
And that's the more fundamental issue. And I think we discussed this on the last podcast about talking about what are the important things
Coming
to
up,
Tasmanians.
speaking of.
Yes, I'm just about to throw to that. So the budget is coming up, 6th of November. I think it's the nominated date. The government has established what it calls a multi-partisan budget matters panel. Budget matters panel.
Yep.
To try and share the pain of the...
Doesn't make a word, does it? MPBMP. You can't even pronounce the...
MPBMP.
You can't even pronounce that.
Yeah, no, it's anyhow. The Tasmanian Chamber of Commerce and Industry has made its position clear. No tax increases.
Yeah.
Yep. Brad, what do you think's going to happen?
Well, first thing, the TCCI can relax for now, Beach, so you can
For
calm
now, for
down,
the
you
time
and your
being.
fellow directors.
Yep.
Those tax increases will be coming, no doubt about it, but not just yet. Eric announced yesterday. Yesterday, I think, as we'd all expected, that basically the budget in a couple of months is going to be a mini budget, more like an appropriation bill, more like a mid-year budget update than an actual budget. The real work will be done in next May's budget. So basically we've lost a year of debt and deficit.
Yep.
Now that makes sense politically. Obviously you can't get voted out if you haven't yet made the tough decisions. So they've bought themselves some time. And also makes sense in a practical sense in terms of trying to get something done in the next couple of months. Now, I did note, though, in that media release, I don't know whether you're still on the media release list, Alex, now that you've gone back to civilian life, but there was a line in there about, quote-unquote, not everything that, I'm slightly paraphrasing, not everything that was in the Guy Barnett budget will be in this budget.
Yeah, that's what I'm curious about too.
What's not going to be in there?
Yeah, what's in and what's out? Yeah, well, that's going to be the $64 question.
Because when you guys rightly suggested last time that there'd be like an interim budget, my pushback on that was, well, doesn't this government need to show that it wants change with this new crossbench? So maybe they're going to have a little bit of both. They're going to have the interim budget, so no real big decisions are made, but maybe you send a few signals to the crossbench that you are prepared to tighten your belt and get rid of. But what are we talking about? Election commitments, one-off spends? Like, that's the big question.
Well,
what goes?
But how do you do it? Because, and I think this was the problem that Guy Barnett had with his previous and now expunged from history.
It's not even on the website anymore. I checked.
It's
gone.
It doesn't exist.
I had to use the Wayback Machine to find it.
Anybody who kept a hard copy of that budget,
I've got one.
Yeah, there you go. It's a collector's item because it's expunged from history. But the point being, when you bring a budget down, you know, particularly in a minority government where you have no agreement around balance of power and those kind of things, what happens if you offend the Tasmanian Farnarkling Association and they get so upset about it that they ring Peter George and Peter George goes, "This is a travesty, you must fund the Farnarklers of Tasmania." You know, we're sort of in that position.
Did you just make that up?
It's an old-fashioned word,
It's not an old-fashioned word. Anyhow. No, it's not Irish. You don't know about Farnarkling. Well, there you go. I'm showing my age.
Listeners, let us know.
Is that what Elton Flatley does?
Look, there'll be plenty of people out
Michael
there who
Flatley?
know what.
Yeah, I think Elton Flatley was a rugby
Elton Flatley's
player.
Rugby, yes.
Right.
I know what that is.
Anyhow, the point being,
Farnarkle with the Springboks, I think.
the point. Anyhow, the point being, I'm just going to look away. The point being that you've got to be careful who you offend. So I'm not surprised that we're going to end up with this benign sort of blancmange, just roll over the problem and extend it out. But yes, it does certainly highlight the
There will be some cuts, for want of a better term, if you compare this budget to the non-existent previous budget, I think, what's being said.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I
What
mean,
will they be? Maybe some infrastructure funding might be squeezed because they're halfway through the year anyway, so it can't physically be
spent,
done.
So we'll just move
Now, I do know that there's some community groups who are making quite a lot of noise that they're running out of money. Hard to see them not getting funded. Election promises, I suspect most of those won't be in this budget. Now, one would like to think they'll be funded in May, but I mean, you know, as I say, it's just.
I think we're highlighting how difficult this process is because you one hand you're trying to send a message to the crossbench. Okay, we get it. We're in a budget emergency. We're going to cut our cloth, but you guys are right. You cut a pet project for someone on the crossbench. Of course, they're going to come out and say that should be a priority.
What happens also if you break an election promise?
Well, we're already all down that track.
Yeah.
But I think Labor is smart in saying we don't want to be part of the budget matters
very
panel.
wise.
Well, that's because that's what opposition should do. They should oppose.
Yeah, I remember that in 2011, I think Lara Giddings, she who tried to rewrite history on Friday Forum about how great they were in government, was set up a tax review process. It might have been with Ruth Forrester, you know, the pseudo-independent Labor member for Murchison, whatever she is now.
Yep.
And Peter Gutwin insisted on being part of it.
Got very excited.
And we eventually had to extract him because they were about to announce a whole increase of taxes, land tax and all that sort of stuff. And he was about to endorse it all and we had to pull him out. And then, of course...
Are you suggesting, Brad, that the multi-partisan budget matters panel may suggest, dare I say it, despite both major parties promising no new taxes and no tax increases, are you suggesting that group of people, when they sit round the campfire, sing Kumbaya, may well say, perhaps we need to increase taxes?
Of course it will.
I'm appalled by that suggestion.
At the risk of contradicting myself, because I think we do need a new way of dealing with Parliament. We need much better communication. We need to treat each other with more respect. This is going to be very hard to manage. You know, imagine from a comms point of view how you manage a budget process. So you want buy-in from the people, but then they will also want to run commentary on the way the budget's going. What happens in these meetings? What are you bound by confidentiality? Like this is a new world.
Well, look at Rockliff. You know, perfect example. You know, the government announces that Rockliff's no longer got the contract for the rotary aeromedical in Tasmania, and of course Peter George gets wind of it, gets on his little blog.
Yeah, political instincts say
and says
back in the locals.
Yeah,
but the government's argument, we save 50 million. So which one is it?
So at what point does Peter George go, that's enough, this needs to be funded? Right? And that's the problem that you've got from a budget point of view, and that's the problem that the government's got, but that's the problem that the Parliament's got. And I don't know whether you need a more respectful way of dealing with it. What you actually need for some people to accept within the Parliament is if they're sitting on the crossbench, then they have to have the maturity to understand that they're not going to get their way all the time. And I think that's probably the challenge that we face at this point. And then, of course, they will say, well, there comes a point, Beach, where, you know, this is an important matter of principle. And I go, well, there you go, happy days. What are we going to do about it? And we all know what we're going to do about it. We're going to go off to the polls. In the meantime, or we're going to trigger the creation of a new government. In the meantime, Parliament resumes tomorrow. We've been waffling on for forever. What are we expecting to see, Brad?
Not much from the government. I think it'll be very, very quiet. I think I saw some anti-terrorism bill they're going to roll back in consistent with national legislation. We'll probably see it's
an important issue, Brad.
Yeah, the bill for the creation of a new agency to count how many paper clips are held within the Department of State Growth. Look, they're not going to be doing anything of any significance before this side of Christmas. There won't be a piece of legislation that is in any way controversial. Where we might see, obviously going to see a bit of action in question time. We'll see what comes up there. But I think where we're going to see the action is going to be from Labor. We won't seek to govern from the opposition benches. We will. And in independence in terms of some of the stuff they're talking about doing. So apparently Labor, I saw Ms Haddad on State Line, still a thing. Once every blue moon you see that on the ABC. Talking about them sticking to their commitment to abolish the Integrity Commission and have a new anti-corruption body because the Integrity Commission isn't working. Not working because it hasn't found any corruption. Maybe that just means there's not any substantial corruption in Tasmania. Just a thought, but anyway.
In a small connected
So I think
community.
we're going to see Labor and the crossbench trying to legislate things around integrity, around transparency, around political donations. Just had an election. All those really, really important things that Tasmania should be focusing on at this point.
Well, it's amazing, isn't it? We've got a cost of living crisis, a housing crisis, budget crisis, and Labor and the Greens and the crossbench want to focus on integrity and transparency. What do you think, AJ?
Oh, well, I think Labor is trying to rebuild that relationship with the crossbench and sort of send a few signals to people like Christy Johnston and Peter George that they have issues in common. And I think Brad's right. There will be times when Labor will use the crossbench to get things through or stop things, or, you know, Josh Willie will try to endear himself more to the crossbench, and that includes David O'Byrne, I reckon. You know, I think it was a mistake sort of not trying to cultivate that relationship a bit better in the last term. So they'd be silly not to. You know, as the raw numbers say, you can get things done in this new Parliament. So I don't see it quite like that. I think you can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Where's the gum then?
Well, yeah, I mean, they do need to get back to those core issues. Once again,
what we were saying about the stadium, AJ, walk and chew gum. But anyhow, go on.
No, I mean, I think that's right. They've got to get back to mainstream issues that, you know, which I think they were doing a pretty decent job on, you know, power prices and things like that. So they don't need to completely reinvent the wheel. They just need to win back credibility that's been lost over the last tumultuous few months.
Well, you know, I've said it here before. You know, I think that the thing they've got to think about is what young aspirational Tasmanians are thinking about and what's determining their vote. That's my point.
See, your argument is you don't want to go too far to the left, but at the same time you're talking about a different policy on the stadium, which in a lot of people's eyes would be a shift to the left because
fiscally conservative.
Okay, you can paint it like that, true, but this is what they'd be grappling with.
This is the dilemma that, look,
this
there's
is
no
the
doubt.
dilemma they have.
This is the dilemma they've got. But I suppose the point being, if you want to, re-engage with the Tasmanian community, then have a look at where they're going and why they're going in certain places, right? And I'm sure transparency for some in terms of integrity and those kind of things.
Well, ABC will be very excited.
Yeah, is important. Certain elements of the community, but I reckon making sure the kids can get a good education, making sure the school system, the public school system works, and do you know what I mean? We have a great education system here in Tasmania and we can make it better, making sure the roads work, making sure public transport works, just all the basics so you can get the kids to school each day, earn a living and hopefully dream of one day paying off your mortgage. I just think we've got to think about that section of the community and where their ambition lies. And if you engage them and you can excite them, you may well start winning some votes.
Now, at the risk of making the Foncast sound like Groundhog Day, I'll tell you one issue.
Every
I'll tell you one issue that we'll hear about this term, and that's pokies.
Yeah. Okay.
And I think we'll hear about it from the Greens. I heard Vic Bailey on radio the other day, and also I think we'll hear about it from the Liberal backbench. I think Michael Ferguson feels passionately about this issue. He showed that during the last term. He didn't get his way back into cabinet, and I think he's going to use his voice very strongly on that issue. I don't know that. I haven't spoken to him since the election, but my gut says that we'll hear more about mandatory pre-commitment, especially in light of those latest stats that show the places that can probably least afford to lose the big amounts of money are still losing the big amounts of money.
Yep, no doubt that field's wide open for Josh Willie too, I would suspect.
Well, there'll be pressure from his side of Labor, because I know when Labor changed their position and signed the agreement with the THA, a real 180 on pokers policy, that there was a lot of disappointment in the left, the progressive side of Labor. So that'll be an issue that he'll have to grapple with, and El Haddad, and he's a Glenorchy person, he would see the harm that's caused out there.
He actually lives in Florence Heights up near me, AJ. So Moona, Moona.
Yes,
there you go.
But he would see those stats on what pokies continue to do to the community, and he'll be, faced with another big dilemma.
He will. Well, I don't think it's a dilemma. I think it's a decision, and that's the thing about.
But I think the point you're making, Beach, and we obviously need to keep moving this show to its inevitable conclusion.
We do.
People like long episodes.
They do.
I got some feedback the other day. We should have a mailbag.
A mailbag.
So we'll have to come up with a font. I can
we
run
get-
it. I've
we
got
get-
plenty of time on my hands.
We get regular criticism about just being a male. Alex Gordon.
MAIL
Oh, my
was
God.
this. Yes, and that's
Yes.
yes.
Let's not go back there again. Anyway, just quickly, I think your point, Beach, about the Parliament, we've made it before, and I made it last episode about it being basically an anti-business progressive Parliament.
Correct.
I think there's a risk that the Parliament will become, it is the Salamanca bubble, but it'll become the Salamanca bubble on steroids. It'll spend all its time focusing on all these issues which the majority of Tasmanians do not give a rat's about, to be frank.
Yep.
And in actual fact, if that happens, I think the government will be very, very happy, because they're happy for the Parliament to do whatever shit it likes with these sorts of things, as long as they can just get on with their job of doing what they feel like is important in terms of governing for Tasmania. So I think the government will be very happy that the opposition is talking about integrity commissions and not talking about Spirited Tasmania failings, for example.
I was going to say, when you mentioned Groundhog Day, we haven't mentioned the Spirit's Arrival
Did you
once.
see it out the window there, Beach?
Yeah.
We did. We mentioned Josh Willie welcoming.
We did. All right. Well, let's quickly whip through a couple of things. 4-year terms for Hare Clark.
Just quickly. I don't want to dwell on it, but I understand that the former treasurer, not the former treasurer, the former treasurer, Guy Barnett, still
The
AG,
attorney.
the attorney,
Yep.
is sort of madly running around trying to get everyone to agree to this idea of 4-year terms, sort of a reaction to the fact that we've had a couple early elections. I would suggest a very silly idea. The reason that we've got such a dysfunctional political system at the moment was the crazy move to increase the size of Parliament to 35, also supported by the now attorney.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the 35-seat Parliament.
Worked brilliantly, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's worked.
No,
well
I'm not
so
being
far.
facetious. I think it's good. We've got people who represent a more diverse range of views in the Parliament. It's a good thing.
Do you think... I mean, I've never met Professor Raza, and I'm sure he's a lovely bloke. And all the reports are that he's a lovely bloke. But really? 3.5% of the vote and he got elected to Parliament?
But if he makes a big difference in terms of preventative health, isn't that a good thing?
3.5%?
We just don't want...
That's an abomination of democracy, surely.
Or we just have people straight out of central casting from the major parties. I mean, I tell you what I'd prefer.
But 3.5%, that's 2,500 people wanted him there, out of a population in Bass of,
Yeah,
what,
but
90,000, 100,000?
But that's primary votes.
Yeah.
Hare Clark's fair. A lot of people had him number 2 or 3 and he got elected.
So, we have had, from 1998 to 2022, the size of the Parliament was 25 seats. The number of hung parliaments in that over 20 years? 1.
Yeah, but
One.
Why are we striving for majority government?
Because...
It's got us into the mess.
No, the
we're
mess
in.
is the last 3 years of minority government, which have both happened since we increased the size of the Parliament to 35.
I think. Oh yeah. Look, and I
Political genius.
I think we're all right.
You know how many ex-federal members there are sitting in the Parliament today?
Well, that's a story for an. Yeah, that's a different
if you're not from local government in Ledgeco, if you're not from
that
federal,
new talent, six.
Yeah, but they're not on the crossbench.
Do you know
That's
how
what
many
I'm
of them are in
saying.
the cabinet? Four.
The new
fresh
talent's
faces.
coming from the crossbench. That's-
So look, just to make this point, the problem we have with minority government, and we're seeing it with the budget, and we're going to see it with the budget, is you cannot bring down a budget in minority government. So you can talk about diversity and you can talk about all these great things that are alleged to occur in minority government. The reality is you can't bring down a budget. If you can't bring down a budget, you can't sustain the state. People can't worry about all the things that they don't care about that go on in Parliament. That's the truth of the matter. They worry about the roads, they worry about education, they worry about schools, they worry about all those kind of things and just the administration of the state. That's why you need a majority government. To suggest otherwise, this diversity argument, great, bring it on, bring in some new policies, some new thoughts, excited by those opportunities, but the reality is at the end of the day, like so many things in life, somebody's got to make a decision and somebody's got to allow it to occur, and not everybody's going to be happy with it. And that's the biggest challenge. And the reality is, and we talked about it with Josh Willie, what he actually shows in his early days, he's got a bit of mongrel, okay? He's got a bit of opportunity.
No, that was me, not you. No.
Cool.
Sorry. No, I agree. You've got to have a different attitude towards the budget. You know, when I worked with Andrew Jenner before the bust-up, he couldn't get his head around the fact that you would bag out the budget and then vote for it. He felt like that was hypocritical. And I said to him, you've got to pass a budget.
Yes.
People have got to get paid.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
It's certainty.
Yeah.
Yes, bag it out. Say you've got to do better next time. You've got your priorities wrong. Be fierce.
Yeah, so...
But you've got to pass it and you've got to get on with things.
So
I do think there is a responsibility of the crossbench to treat the budget with maturity and with sobriety.
Let's be very clear about where we are. This year's budget in May, that thing that no longer exists, is expunged from history except sitting on Brad's desk, right, a collector's item copy, was a complete crap budget. Right, promised everything to everybody in an attempt not to offend anybody because of minority government. Right, now we're facing a mini budget November. We don't know what it's going to be. Right, we don't know which of the undertakings in the May budget it's going to promise and which promises it's not going to jettison. Right, and so that'll be a disappointing process, I suggest. And then so we've got complete economic chaos from a financial point of view, where this government clearly has a spending problem, right? We're doing nothing about it in November, or very little bit of lipstick on the pig, and then in May we're going to have an absolute bombshell of a budget, and they've got to please everybody.
Anyway,
only going one way.
Speaking of financial chaos. Nice
yes.
segue, Beach. We've got to go, but just quickly, I cannot not remark on Peter George and his shares. So for those of you that didn't catch the report, I think it was by Adam Holmes at the ABC and picked up by a couple others afterwards.
Yep.
Mr. George was forced to dispose of some shares over the past week in, I think, Origin Energy and also Endeavour Group. They have pokies. After it was pointed out to him that he had these shares in his self-managed super portfolio. Okay, now look, from my perspective, I think members of Parliament can hold whatever shares they like, and Mr. George wants to hold shares in Endeavour Group and Origin Energy. Good on him. Fair call, but talk about roll gold hypocrisy. I mean, the bloke got elected to Parliament with the biggest individual political donation in a long, long time, $70,000 from Climate 200, mostly into state money. Rails against money in politics. Then gets busted with these shares after he filled the form out himself saying he had them. And then says, "Oh, I didn't know. I'll now go and sell them." I mean, come on. I mean, like, does he think people are stupid? I mean, really?
Yeah.
Well, he's got plenty of feedback. I read the comments, and it actually really pleases me how politically engaged people are. And I read the comments on Pulse because they did the post, and that's where a lot of traffic is. And people were they were onto him. The people are engaged these days, and they called out that hypocrisy. I mean, I don't think.
But read the comments on his Facebook page.
Yeah.
Oh no, they.
Peter, that's okay. I'm sure you didn't mean it.
Didn't mean to own those shares and then write them on your declaration and then forget that you'd written them on your declaration and then get caught.
Anyway,
he's going to be a very interesting politician to watch because, as you've alluded to, his instincts are to go for whatever's in the news. You know, we're going to see his updates every day. He's going to be a fascinating politician to watch.
How many knitted sweaters does he have?
It's a gorgeous array of sweaters. I mean, we've got to be on a unity ticket.
Very impressive.
You can never have too many knitted sweaters.
Look forward to how he's going to go in summer, though. Does he have some sort of... I reckon he's got a collection of skivvies.
Right.
What do you reckon?
All right.
Finally, Beach, before we go...
one more thing.
Some good news, very good news. While all the action, as it turned out, no action, was happening downstairs in the no confidence motion a couple of weeks ago, upstairs, the big debate in the Legislative Council. The real issues, as we've been discussing, should they still have afternoon tea on a Tuesday? Cassie O'Connor bravely fought the fight in...
there's reform for you.
That maybe the LegCo should work more than an hour and a half between lunch and afternoon tea on a Tuesday. And tried to have that afternoon tea cancelled. Unfortunately, she was unsuccessful, only supported by Mike Gaffney and Beck Thomas, the other
11 votes.
11 of them all very strongly in support of maintaining afternoon tea in LegCo. So good news, Beach, afternoon tea lives on. You can still go down there on a Tuesday and get your
tea and scones
or cucumber
only
sandwiches.
On Tuesday.
Oh no, it's Wednesday as well. But Cassie, in Spirit of Compromise, just tried to get rid of Tuesday.
Tuesday, got to start somewhere. Well,
Big issues.
I hope my crusts are cut off my cucumber sandwiches when I'm next down there. Right, that is great news. The LegCo has standards and traditions that are being upheld. I'm delighted. Anyhow, that's time.
They used to catch the train down there or something. Is that the one? It doesn't start till midday because people from the north would have to catch the train to Hobart. Is that true? I think that's true.
Yeah.
We're running out of time, so one word answer.
Yep.
Does Tas Insure ever happen?
Well,
sorry, that's unfair of me.
I've been regularly saying how much I'm looking forward to getting getting a quote.
Yes, it'll happen.
There you go. Great news. We're all got comfort that there'll be more competition in Tasmania as a result of that. All right.
Yes, more crowding out of the private sector. Just what we need.
Yep, that's exactly right, because I thought we owned a great insurance company here in Tasmania, but what would I know? Anyhow, that's time. Enterprise Foncast is brought to you by Enterprise Marketing and Research Services, Tasmania's leading research provider. Thank you, Brad.
Great to be on the show.
Thank you, Alex.
Thanks for giving me purpose in life.
There you go.
Thank God we didn't have David today. Would have gone for 3 hours.
And as ever, thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam.
Don't forget, you can now watch us on our YouTube channel, Fontcast. Fontcast is produced and directed by Sam Eichen for Eichen Media. Until next time, carry on. Bye-bye.